well-beaten path on that old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. And I wandered alone to the place I call home in those Blue Ridge hills far away. All right, we're going to be going over the backup for Blue Ridge Cabin Home. We're going to be doing some vamping, and I'm going to go through and talk about the pattern that's used in this one, and we'll talk about how it can be applied to other keys very easily, and we'll talk about some of the licks in Tunefox, which will make for excellent fills in between vocal lines. If you're not familiar with vamping, check out the learning path for vamping and closed position chords. That will give you all the necessary information to get a handle on this basic backup style of playing. Now obviously we are doing vamping, so that's going to require some of that fret hand release, right? Where we want to kind of lift the pressure. We don't want to depress the string all the way into the fret, but we also don't want our strings to come out of contact with the strings. If that happens, the open strings are going to ring. So we need the fret fingers to stay in contact with the string when we release the pressure. And that's how we get that short staccato sound. This is definitely an essential skill for jamming and an easy backup style once you get the hang of the chords and the chord shapes. We also have the lyrics here in the tablature, so you will easily be able to see how those words connect to the chords and the chord progression here. And if you can kind of sing or speak the words as I did in that intro, it will really help you internalize and memorize the backup for this tune. All right, so in that intro, I sang along and I used some of the licks in Tunefox as a fill between vocal lines when I wasn't singing, right? But the basic arrangement here is quite a bit more simple. We always want to start more basic, right? We want to have a more neutral launching pad so we get a really clear understanding of what's happening just with the chord movements. We want to save adding in the licks and the vocabulary for after we have our foundation built. All right, so I'm going to play through this and I'm just going to say the words. This time, you know, a lot of people don't feel comfortable with singing, but just saying and speaking the words in time is something else that's really good to help develop musicality and help your memory. Here we go. There's a well-beaten path on that old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. And I wandered alone to the place I call home in those Blue Ridge hills far away. Now at the start of this tune, we've got kind of some pinches and a little walk up. That's just to show you that when someone comes in singing this tune, when they start saying there's a well-beaten path, the first two words in that are not at the downbeat of when we start playing our first vamp, right? Those are kind of pickup notes in the melody. Actually, the word well, that is the word kind of that strikes at the same time as our first picked note on the thumb for our vamping right there. And really, you know, you wouldn't even be playing this intro normally in the context of a song. Like if someone else is kicking it off on the solo, you might hear them do, and then they launch into the lead and you'd come in with a vamping right after that. Right? This is just there to give you perspective, right? To show you that those words come a little bit earlier than when we actually start the vamping. But if you want to start off a song and you don't know how to play a solo and no one else in the group knows how to play a solo or a kickoff, this wouldn't be too bad of a way to just start it off, just with a couple of those pinches and those walk-ups. Most people are going to be able to jump right in with you. All right, so for most of this, we are using what's known as the root shape, the root major chord shape, to navigate this common chord progression. So we really want to memorize this shape, how it looks and how it feels. It's called the root shape because the root note of the chord is in where you're fretting your ring finger. So when we use this root shape here at the 5th fret, where I'm placing my ring finger, that is a G note, right? And when we go up to our C chord here, it's a C chord because of the shape, how the banjo is tuned, and this note where the ring finger is a C note. Same goes for the D chord at the 12th fret. Now, as I said, in this we are playing what's known as the 1-4-5 in the key of G. That means we are playing major chords based off the 1st scale note in the key of G, the 4th scale note, and the 5th scale note. Now, as it works out in music when playing in a major key, anytime we're building chords in a key based off those 1st scale notes, the 4th and the 5th, we end up with major chords. And in G, we end up with G, C, and D. Now, if you notice, when we're going from the G chord to the C chord, we're moving up 5 frets. Right? So whenever you're going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, right? If we're using root shapes, we're going to move up 5 frets. And when going from the 4 to the 5, we're going to move up 2, okay, when using root shapes. So if I wanted to play a 1-4-5 in, let's say, the key of A, I'll play my root shape here, because that is an A note right there, and I'm going to move up 5 frets. D chord, the D chord is the 4 chord in the key of A. And to get to the 5 chord, I'm going to move up 2 frets. It's an E chord, all using root shapes. You know, we talked about some people aren't comfortable singing this and we can just speak the words. And sometimes, depending on your voice, how high or low it is, this song might not work well for you in the key of G. But because this is a movable pattern, you can try this out in multiple keys. You can try it out in F. And once you've got your 1 chord, remember, you'll just move up 5 frets to your 4 chord and then 2 frets to your 5 chord. So you can try this out in F, A, and all kinds of different places and find one that works with your voice. When trying to figure out chords, just taking one of these root shapes and applying it to the key and messing around with the 1-4-5, you're very likely to stumble on the chords that you will need to play most common bluegrass songs. Okay, now talked about the 1-4-5 going from this G shape here at the 5th fret, moving up 5 frets to the 4, moving up 2 frets from there to the 5 chord. And if you notice when I was playing this, we also go all the way up to the 17th fret, right? So again, I'm moving up 5 frets from the 5 chord, and now actually that gets me to another G chord, which is an octave up from the original G chord we played. There's really only 12 notes in music. And so when we have a chord, you know, down here lower in the neck area, if we just literally add 12 to that, and so my ring finger's here at the 5th fret, I add 12 to that, I get 17. I want to put this ring finger up at the 17th fret, and then I'm going to have another G chord that's an octave up from the original, and that can work with anything. Let's say I'm playing this common D shape down here. This is actually what's known as first inversion. As you can tell, it's a different shape than our root shape. But these fingers here at the 4th fret. So if I add 12 to 4, I get 16. There's that same first inversion D shape, an octave up. The other thing that's happening here, technique-wise, we might need to think about is our shifting, right? We're making a pretty big jump when we jump 5 frets. Something I would encourage you all to do is not to kind of crane your neck over and look at the front of the fingerboard, but if you have the dots on the top side of your neck, most of us will, we need to try and use those. So for most banjos, I've got a dot here on my 3rd fret, a dot here on the 5th, and the 7th. So those dots, those singular dots right there are odd numbers, 3, 5, and 7. And then I've got a single dot here at the 10, 10th fret, and then the double dot is your 12th. So that's kind of a common layout. Yours might be a little bit different. Make sure to kind of double check it and count your frets to see how it all lines up. But using those dots as a way to navigate and just getting the rest by feel is going to be something that will really help you develop as a player. Something else that I'm doing while I'm playing my vamping here on the G, I'm going to just kind of not move my head, but literally just move my eyeballs down and eyeball the next place that I'm going to go. So when I'm playing this first or the second measure here, vamping on the G, as I'm doing that with the right hand, I'm eyeballing that 10th fret. And it makes it a lot easier to make that shift and that jump. So that's a good technique kind of to add and make your shifting a little bit easier. The licks, so we've got a lot of options here that will make just the basic backup more interesting, and then some options that we can use as fills as well. A lot of them are going to take us through a couple different inversions of a chord. Major chords really just have 3 notes to them, and there's going to be 3 basic ways that we'll usually play them on the banjo. And really, for the most part, we're only going to use 2. We'll use this root shape, and then we'll use what's also known as this first inversion. And the inversion means we're just taking those normal 3 chord notes and flipping the order a little bit. So instead of having the root in the lowest note, we're going to have the second note of the chord, also known as the major third, right there. A lot of music theory, a lot to explain. Memorizing the shapes and the sound is really more important. Right, so to go from a root shape to a first inversion, we're just going to move up 4 frets, and then we're going to flip those fingers. And that'll work for any major chord. So we could do that the whole time we play this song. So instead of just playing like 4 boom chucks per measure, we could do this. Could even go up high there. It's a little bit high up the neck, but you get the point, right? So that pattern will hold true going from root shape to first inversion. Anytime we have one of these root shape major chords, go up 4 frets, flip those fingers. We've also got some walks in here, and that leads your ear, other players' ears, and listeners' ears to the next chord change. And those are really cool to add in. Now the Scruggs licks are a bit more kind of fancy vamping, and those are going to be work great as fills, as I said, and as I kind of demonstrated in the intro playthrough here. They're a little bit tougher, so you'll probably want to use your Tunefox tools like your focus feature, tempo slider, and even the difficulty slider if you need to when first learning this. Make sure you can nail it repeatedly before trying to play it in context, and don't try to practice at a speed that you can't play relatively cleanly. So again, let's try to say or sing those words as we play this. It's going to help you memorize it, and we really need to memorize basic backup and some of these basic shapes. If we're going to jam with this song, we need it memorized. And again, just this pattern is used so much on so many different bluegrass songs, so it's really essential to start trying to memorize this pattern and not rely on looking at the tablature once you're able to get to that point. And once you do have this memorized, try playing the backup along to another arrangement in Tunefox, like the melody or one of the Scruggs style version, anything. And just playing along with that repeatedly. Even better would be if you have a lead memorized to work on swapping back and forth between them. So maybe the first time you're going through, you'll play the Scruggs style version. After you get that down, when the tune repeats, you'll come right in with your vamping. And that right there is kind of the training that you will need and that will make you great at any jam. All right, that's about all we've got for the vamping on Blue Ridge Cabin Home. I hope you guys enjoyed it and will continue to enjoy it, and that this will help you learn backup on other new tunes as well. Keep picking and stay tuned.